Hi, welcome to On the Level Leadership. And on today's On the Level Leadership moment, we're discussing the Kouzes Posner Leadership number 1, which is Model the Way. Up next. Hi, welcome to episode 2 of On the Level Leadership. We're going to be talking about principle number 1 of the leadership challenge that Kouzes Posner made famous. There are 2 ways that a leader can actually model the way. The first is clarifying values. The second is actually setting the example. Let's discuss those options. Today's log is almost entirely based on the Kouzes Posner's Leadership Challenge. There's a link down below where you can get the book for yourself. It's a really great reference. It's an awesome tool, and if you want to see positive organizational change, you can actually apply these principles. And for those that are geek savvy and really interested in apps, they actually have an app. It's the Leadership Challenge mobile tool. It's a series of checklists and reminders of the kinds of things that you can do, goals you can set for yourself as a leader in your organization that actually embrace the 5 principles. I've actually used that app. It's quite useful. I'm going to try to find the link for you as to where you can find it in the App Store, and when I do, I'll link it below. One of the strongest messages that Kouzes have throughout the book is that leadership is really about relationship. It's about dialogue. It should never be a monologue. It should always have a dialogue component because, again, leadership is all about relationship. One of the things that Kouzes Posner talks about is when we model the way we're clarifying our values. Essentially, as a leader, we have to know what our own core sets of values are. Things like, I like to show up on time, I like to respect other people's time, I always answer my phone calls, or I never answer my phone calls, or I never check my BlackBerry in meetings, or whatever it is that your core values are. I always stay till the end of the day, or I always show up on time to work, or I'm accountable for my mistakes. Whatever it is that your core values are, you need to really have a good sense of what those are internally for yourself, because personal leadership, personal mastery of that leadership is really important, because how you present yourself to the world is super key. The other piece to it, though, is understanding as a leader, having the desire and the willingness and the openness and the vulnerability to be able to accept what the other's values are, and then trying to determine or decipher, especially if you're new on the job, is to engage in that dialogue so that you can essentially look for things like, what are the shared values that everybody here shares? For example, you may go into an organization where everybody has a practice that after 5 o'clock we all turn off our BlackBerries and we go back to work-life balance. And if there's some sort of really serious emergency or something happens, we all understand that the call tree, you'll phone me at home, is sort of what's applied. So that every night someone can just turn off their BlackBerry, not worry about answering emails. And so that core sets of values, if you come in as a leader and try to implement something different, it's going to make it very difficult for you to be accepted as a leader in that organization. So you need to be able to affirm not just your own values, but what are the values of the group that you're with? And what are the shared values that everybody has in terms of how you want to move forward, either on the projects that you're on, the mandate that you're having to fulfill, whatever it is that you're doing, what are your shared values? And you need to be very clear about what those are. So to be clear, and I'm actually going to quote from the Leadership Challenge right now from page 60 of the 5th version, is that shared values can foster strong relationships, feelings of personal effectiveness. They can promote high levels of company loyalty. They can facilitate consensus about key organizational goals and stakeholders. They can encourage ethical behavior, promote strong norms about working hard and caring about each other. It can foster pride in a company. It can facilitate understanding about job expectations. And finally, it can foster teamwork and esprit de corps. So again, the value in having core shared values that everybody understands on how we treat each other and how we're going to behave, on how we're going to run the business basically as a team is really key. The other piece to sharing values and clarifying values is really trying to give people a reason to care. I mean, ultimately, people need to know why they're part of the organization, where they fit within that organization, and what they bring to the table as value to the organization, and having that clarity around each one of their roles. And as a leader, it's your role to kind of draw that out. And if you're able to draw that out, again, you're going to give people a reason to care, not just for their jobs, but for the business, maybe even colleagues, care about you. So ultimately, if you want to have an organization that's highly functional, really important to clarify those values so that you can really give people in your organization a real reason to care. The other component to clarifying values is forging unity, really not forcing unity. That's kind of key, because when you forge unity, you're bringing people along willingly. They're not feeling pulled or pushed into that unifying moment. So the best way to do that, again, is to identify what the core values or beliefs of the initiative, the work, the project, the company, whatever it is that you're looking to achieve are, what those core values are, or what it is that you're trying to achieve. I'll give you a very specific example of how this is applied. A few years back, we had a federal, provincial, territorial relationship meeting about a specific initiative that we were all working on. It became very clear to me within the first 5 to 10 minutes that we would probably not achieve any success out of our 2-day meeting if we didn't change the tone of the meeting. And so it was really important to, first we took a break. We went off and got coffee and we recalibrated ourselves. But when we went back in the room, one of the things I really wanted to do was try to forge unity so that we could actually achieve something at the end of those 2 days. And what I essentially did is I started with me. I essentially asked the team to join me in removing our political hats for 2 days. So the goal here was to push forward the concept that let's just sort of park our egos at the door for a minute and just look at the greater good. What is the reason for our getting together? What is the reason for us having this conversation? And as much as we can agree or disagree on things because of the positions that we are in, because of the lenses we have, because of the framing that we carry with us, because of the level of governments we work in, there's ultimately a really positive end goal that we're trying to achieve. And can we do that? I'll start with myself. And to be honest, in doing that, it really helped to reframe and forge unity. At the end of the day, I would say about 4 years later, we achieved consensus on a framework that is amazing, and it's a beautiful piece of work that demonstrates that if you can lead through relationship, through open dialogue, through checking of egos and clarifying values, you most certainly can get consensus, or you can most certainly get at least some semblance of agreement on an approach to things that can really lead to some success as an organization, or in our case, between governments. But generally, this is a very powerful tool. The other important piece of modeling the way is setting the example. Jack Canfield in the Success Principles, again, linked down below, he used a really great quote from Dolly Parton, which I really want to share because it talks about how leaders' actions are really important in any organization. And so Dolly Parton's quote goes like this. It says, "If your actions create a legacy that inspires others to dream more, learn more, do more, or become more, then you are an excellent leader." And I can't disagree with that. Your goal as a leader is to model the way so that others want to be like you and want to aspire to be a great leader as well. It is really important that you walk the talk. As a leader, if you don't walk the talk, you're going to lose the trust of your organization, of your staff, of your colleagues, perhaps even your management. You need to walk the talk. The implicit and explicit values have to be in alignment. I believe it's Peter Senge that talks about that, where you have alignment of values, and if you are, explicitly stating one thing but implicitly demonstrating another, then you will not build trust in your organization. So I'll give an example of this. So let's say you're the CEO of a company and you state to your entire organization, there are no exceptions. We do not want you to turn your BlackBerry on after 5 o'clock. We expect you to have family, work-life balance. And so we expect that, if an email is sent at 5:30, that it will not be responded to and you can deal with it the next morning. That's the explicit value set, is that we turn our BlackBerries off after 5 o'clock. But if emails are coming in at 6:30 and 8:30 and 9:30, and there's a sense of urgency in the language being used, even so it's not explicitly expected that we respond, there's an implicit reaction to it that maybe if we respond, we'll be looked at higher or with more desirability from a workplace, promotion perspective if I respond to this email. And so the implicit and explicit values are not in alignment. So if you're going to be the CEO who says, turn off my BlackBerry at 5 o'clock for all of my staff, you also have to turn off your BlackBerry after 5 o'clock. along with your staff. And the reason being is because there needs to be a certain level of balance. Now, I understand that some CEOs are going to watch this and go, absolutely not, never going to happen. And I would love to hear your comments down below. But I really think that whatever the case may be, whether it's being on time, not showing up late for meetings, not checking your BlackBerry during meetings, listening to people intently, whatever it is that your values are, if you don't actually practice them, if you don't actually behave in the way you're talking, then you will definitely lose the audience. Leaders know that words are powerful. They have meaning. Brené Brown talks about this. Leadership Challenge obviously talks about this. It's not just about the cursing or not cursing in the office and what you can get away with kind of language, although that could be applicable. It's really more about how you address people or how you refer to people. Disney is really good at this. Disney calls their staff cast members because they're part of a bigger production and they're a valuable part of that production. Calling staff, my staff, has a different connotation to saying our team. Using language like we would really love to see this, we have successfully engaged in, we positively achieved, versus I really think we need to go in this direction, I believe this, I want this. There's a very big difference in the kind of language that we use, and it's really important that we distinguish how and what we say, because again, words are powerful. Any leader who's anyone is absolutely comfortable with asking questions and actually listening to the answers. You want to ask purposeful questions, again, page 81 of the 5th version. But you want to ask purposeful questions because you want to make sure that your organization not only is doing its very best and being its very best, but you want to engage people, because engagement, where people feel that they have input, where they have a say in how things are being run or what the values are, and how goals are being achieved, it puts them smack into the organization. It gives them a reason to care. So you really want to ask those questions and get to the bottom, to the roots of what's important and what do they see, and how would they like to see things improve. Everybody and his uncle is doing PowerPoint by death by PowerPoint. At the end of the day, when you're doing a briefing or you're doing a report or you're giving a summary to whether it's a bunch of executives or at an all-staff meeting, PowerPoint presentations are kind of dull. You kind of lose people. They're very impersonal. And although there is a functionality behind them and there's a reason for having them, sometimes you just got to show the financials on a board, right? However, I would have to say that, telling stories, and Kouzes Posner talk about this, but again, I talked about this in my vlog from last week with lessons from Disney, and I'm gonna link below vlog number 1 that talks about leadership lessons a la Disney. But Disney does this very well, and he understood that storytelling is powerful. And so telling stories on how you achieve things or the challenges you experienced and how you overcame them and the team members that were involved, and maybe throwing in some funny anecdotes every so often. Telling stories is really where you get people. It's really where you get folks on board with where you're going with things. So again, storytelling is powerful. Remember that. To recap, when you're talking about the first principle of the 5 of the Kouzes Posner's Leadership Challenge, you must model the way, and you do that through clarifying values and setting the example. Thanks for watching. Hi, this was your On the Level Leadership Moment for today. If you would like leadership information on a weekly basis, our On the Level Leadership Moment will be here every Monday on a weekly basis. Hit the subscribe button down below and be part of the action. Thanks again for watching. See you soon.